So there it is, the first custom carbon fiber recumbent I finished up. This one for my kiddo. I'll start up here with the Drivetrain Controls. These are just cheap micro shift twist shifters, which she likes. Kid-sized mountain levers. This shifter here was indexed for mountain and doesn't actually match the 105 road shifter that I put on the front, so I had to open it up and re-index that shifter, but that wasn't too hard with a Dremel and a little bit of thinking. On the front end, it's got 155 or 145, I'd have to remember, 145 or 155 Origin 8 crankset. I bought a cheap FSA BB30 crankset on eBay and just stole the matched ring set off of there. And the front end, I put a derailleur post on there with a tapped hole so that you can actually mount a light on there if you need to. You can see over here, cable stops for the derailleur. And you can see right there, there's a really short run of bare cable. That's so that the bike can be more easily taken apart. I just haven't installed the Ritchie breakaway, which is going to go on that front one just like it does here for the rear derailleur and the rear disc brake. Up here I made a custom stem and flip it headset, and that's because you need to be able to get this to the position that is comfortable, and she's a growing kid. So in order to make it so she could get it where she wanted, I created a custom top cap with a little lump on it, and then you can see there's a set screw in there, some plastic over it, so that you can put the angle exactly where you want it. And up here there's a pinch assembly so that you can lengthen the steering or push it in as needed. The front end of that steering hookup is a couple of plates onto another plate that comes out of the stem. Should be pretty sturdy. And similarly here, this is a movable boom. Can we get a good look? It's all the way in at this point. So she's got plenty of room to grow because the boom is all the way up and the seat is all the way forward at this point. The seat is a custom job I made out of carbon fiber tubes, and if we get her on back, we might be able to see they're covered up. Right under here are some pinch assemblies, so this tube nests into the lower tube, and so the seat can be made larger or smaller or taken apart completely for travel, and the mesh just comes right off. I sewed that mesh, and I even made this seat pad out of 3D foam. Seat stays back here are 14 and 16 millimeter carbon fiber tubing, some M6s holding them on up there and down there. In the back, hand cut aluminum dropouts holding the carbon fiber plates. And then it runs TRP discs, spikes front and back, and a simple micro shift Marvo mountain derailleur. And the entire thing actually clocked in lighter than I thought. When I weighed it yesterday, before I put the fenders on, it was 21.2 pounds. Fenders are about 10 ounces. So still underneath, sorry, that was 21.2 pounds, so still under 22 pounds, which isn't bad for a travel recumbent made out of decidedly non-weight weenie parts. Figured I would highlight a few things while the bike is on the stand. You can see the chain tubes here. They're both actually held on, well, they suspend on the chains. They're held on just with one zip tie here, which holds the return tube, and then down here the return tube is attached to the power side tube, and the power side tube therefore floats wherever it needs to here because it's got a long lever arm, makes it a lot quieter. return tube doesn't have any tension, so it is fine doing whatever it needs to from here. Technically, you wouldn't need either chain tube, really. Power side one is just to keep my kid's leg clean and not have her freak out. And you could even let the return side just flow straight off through here. It would want to flap a little, so you could just put a small tube attached to the fork, and that would actually take care of it, and that would be a slightly more efficient and maybe quieter line. But when you turned, you would get some issues with the chain running into the wheel, which for somebody with experience is no big deal, because you don't actually turn the wheel that far very often. We get her up and running. Fairly quiet. Jockey wheel. That keeper is pretty simple. It's just old protein powder jar folded over and cut and drilled to fit. So if the chain decides it wants to hop off there, it has really nowhere that it can go. It's pretty thin in there. And that's just a Chinese jockey wheel. It's got actual metal bearing in it. There isn't very much force on that jockey, even though it's on the power side, because the angle there, I checked, the maximum is only 16 degrees, so it can't really generate very much force. Then back here, the only potential, that's weird, is that the lower jockey wheel on that long cage derailleur is awfully close to the ground, but that's pretty typical with 20-inch wheels on these bikes. And even if I put a shorter derailleur on, I'd only gain maybe an inch or something down there, and I would lose some capacity for larger gears. The gear inches on this is 18 low gear, 18-inch low gear, and like a 90. So it's definitely not a speed bike. That's not really what it's for.